covering in this video is through the getline function. If you'll notice, I put some arguments here in the getline function just to sort of specify some stuff that's required. First off is the char array that I'm going to be storing data into. In this case, it's x. So that's going to be the first argument. The second one is how many characters we want to read into. And the reason why I put 19 here is because I want to save that last element to have the null terminator. You are able to put the full amount to read into, and you will not come across you technically won't come across a syntax error, which means that the syntax works. It's just that you're going to come across issues in the future when you're working with this char array. The reason why is because many functions in C++, the C++ standard library that work with char arrays, they will continuously do stuff until they reach the null terminator. And if they don't see that they reach the null terminator at the end of your char array, they will keep going into further parts of memory until they do eventually reach that null terminator. And so I like leaving sort of the last element for me to be able to state that I want this last element to have the null terminator, which is going to look like so. 19, because if you remember, arrays in C++ and most of programming in general, they start counting it at 0, and so the 19th index is going to be the last, or for example in this case the 20th character. So you want to set that to the null terminator as such. The last argument is the delimiter. The delimiter is responsible for telling getline when we want to stop reading. And so after it reaches this new line, it will stop reading, it will exit, and it will not put this in the input buffer. So unlike cn.get and the extraction operator, this will not put new line into the input buffer. And so afterwards, if we want to use, so for example, cn.get or cn with the extraction operator, we can do so safely because this new line will not be input into cn, because the getline function will ignore this. So that's just how getline is also a bit different from cn with the extraction operator and cn with the get function. And so let's see what this will look like. And so as you can see here, we have our string. And so if we want to read in the new line, and so for example, if we want to do more different characters, we can. If we want to read until we hit the X character, for example, we can do that. And so if we do hello, and then or a space, and then enter, it will continue to allow us to read in there. And so if we want to do there, and then X, which is our delimiter, it will do hello, our new line, and then there, and it will stop when we reach the X. So now, lastly, I want to cover a common issue that you'll come across when you're using sort of all these different methods together interchangeably with different types. And so an issue people come across commonly is when they're using these different types and different methods together, it's that new line character that I talked about before that's being input into the buffer. And so I'll just simplify what that looks like right now. One, and that getline x 19, and then character, and then I want to see out y, and then x. So let's see what happens when I enter a number and then press enter. And then if you'll see, it doesn't allow me to enter in information into getline, because that new line, as I talked about before, because we're using the extraction operator, it's put into that input buffer. And so we can further prove this by changing the delimiter that we want to stop at. And so let's run this again. We're going to enter 4, and then now I am able to enter information into getline, because that new line character is not our delimiter, because cin with the extraction operator, it puts that into our input buffer. It doesn't ignore that. And so now we're able to enter in user input, hello there, and then X. And you can even see here that new line character is still saved. It's the first element in our char array. And so this H right here is starting as the second character. And so this just exemplifies how cin can cause some issues with getline. If you're reading in characters and you're stopping at the new line, or even if you're just using cin.get, because get will also only read a single character at once until it reaches that new line. And because the extraction operator is not ignoring that, same with cin.get. Cin.get will not will save that new line character, and it'll cause issues with getline as well. And so in order to sort of alleviate this issue, we can do sort of several different things. We can state that after cin with the extraction operator or cin.get, we want to clear the fail bit with stdcin.clear, and then the usual cin.ignore, and then however many characters we want to ignore. In this case, we just do 5, and then what character we want to clear up until, which in this case is the new line, because that's also the delimiter that we are wanting to stop at this get line. Something else that we can do to alleviate this issue is by explicitly putting white space into cin. So in this example, we can do, for example, this stdcin extraction and then stdws. And so what this is C++ has put in a variable that is explicitly for white space. And so we pass this in to cin through the extraction operator to tell cin we want to take this white space that we are expecting from the previous extraction operator. And so let's run this and see if it works. So we enter 5, and then look at that. It works, because now we've taken the new line that we've entered in here, and we've already put that into cin through the std whitespace object. And so now we can enter in our normal input. Hello there. And as you can see, it works. And so this is just something to be wary of whenever you're working with cin and cin.get or cin.getline interchangeably, all three of those. And so actually another way that you can sort of alleviate this is by changing the order in which you get your input. In this example, for example, if we want to do get line before, and then we want to do the extraction operator afterwards, this will also work. It just depends on whether or not you actually want to do this sort of pattern or this sort of order of input. And so I hope that was helpful in sort of going over different issues with the different methods of handling input, how to handle those kind of issues, and which sort of method you should use and when.